I haven't talked to him, and he's entitled to that, and that's about it.
Just to clarify on the Brett Favre business, you said you respect his opinion, but his opinion in this instance was that you should have kept Nick Foles and gotten rid of Carson Wentz. I'm assuming that's not your opinion?
I respect Brett's opinion. He's entitled to his opinion, and that's fine, and I'll leave it at that.
Just want to give you a final opportunity to clarify. Those were Brett's thoughts. They weren't your thoughts when the decision had to be made in the organization. Even though personnel decisions like that are usually tough, it probably wasn't that difficult for you guys. Was anyone beating down the door to do a different thing?
In regards to Nick?
In terms of keeping Nick over Carson?
No, Carson's our guy. Carson's our draft pick. Carson's the guy that is going to carry us and lead this football team. And listen, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Those aren't my words. Those aren't Howie's words, Jeffrey's words. Those are his words. I mean, I respect that opinion. Whatever he wants to say, that's fine. And we're going to remain friends. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. All I know is that Carson Wentz is our guy. And it's my job to get Carson Wentz to play better, to do better, to help this football team win, as it is to get everybody else to play better. And so, again, I respect his opinion and his words. Those aren't mine. Please don't put words in my mouth, or we're going to have a problem. And Carson's our guy. Bottom line. End of story.
What is it?
How about that leads to last 2 minutes? Right off the bat.
What are you
Carson,
doing?
next question.
Ooh,
it was 2.5 minutes because they were spoon-fed the answer. We'll give you one last chance to really tell us what you're thinking. Man, he does that to himself. Doug Pederson, this is not the first time. Greg Jennings joins us now. Greg, what did you make of Pederson's comments on Carson Wentz?
I was blown away. I was simply blown away. He not only doubled down, he tripled down on the respecting of Brett's opinion. And this is one of those questions where you have to completely throw his opinion out the door. No, I mean, I completely disagree with Brett Favre. That should have been his response. Yeah. And then the reporter even has to re-ask the question and say, wait, to be clear, those are Brett's opinions, though. I'm assuming they're not yours. Like, he never really disregarded or threw out the notion of what Brett said about them needing to have kept Nick Foles over Carson Wentz. Then he goes to, he's our draft pick. So basically what he said was, the only reason we kept Nick Foles, Carson Wentz over Nick Foles is because we had spent a draft pick on him and we had to give him a chance. Gosh. Like, that is, if I'm hearing that as a player, like, I'm completely disgusted, but it fuels me too as well. And it lets me know where he stands. But this is bad. This is completely bad for the Philadelphia Eagles and Doug, because you can't lead a team when you question the helm.
Okay. Brandon, I'm going to throw it to you because you had a different thought on it. But I'll tee you up like this. We know this is a copycat league. We know that everyone likes to look at the Patriots and be like, hey, why don't we be like the Patriots? Well, Doug Pederson, just be like Belichick. Maybe you can wear a nicer sweatshirt if you want to make it your own thing. But just go up there, and this is all you have to say. I'm not worried about what Brett Favre's team says about my team. I'm worried about the guys in the locker room. That's it. Carson's our guy. I'm not talking about Nick Foles. That's it. And then you try, I respect his opinion. Yeah. It's just a terrible, terrible decision-making from Pederson.
Yeah, well, look, I disagree with you, Greg. I disagree with you because we as players and coaches know how hard it is to stand in front of the media every single day and answer the tough question. So, look, I see a guy who's not savvy in front of the camera. Not everyone is built to be in front of the camera. You go back to week 3, week 4, when the media was asking him about has Carson Wentz regressed? And he had to answer, regressed, digressed? What are you saying? And that whole debacle there. This is a guy over the last couple of years has shown that he's not capable of standing in front of the media and answering a tough question. It's like a deer in the headlight. There's a guy to his left and probably a guy to his right that prepped him, that's off camera, that PR, that prepped him, say, hey, this is what your guy Brett Favre said. So we're going to prepare you for that. Also, this could come up, and potentially this can come up. We all had people in the locker room. I had Jim when I was in Chicago. I had Bruce Spite when I was with the Jets that would prep me for these meetings. You can't look at a coach or a player and really take what they're saying seriously. This is tough work for a person to stand there and try to answer the tough questions. Yeah, yes, I would love for him to be. I would love for him to be Coach Belichick and don't say anything, or Marshawn Lynch and don't say anything. But not everybody's built like that.
So hold on, real quick before I give my opinion. Wilds, it sounded like you wanted to respond. So before I give my take, I heard you. Go ahead, Wilds. It sounded like you wanted to respond.
I totally get what Brandon is saying, and I think that Brandon, you're right that there are some tough questions that could come up with situations in an organization. Should we relitigate your letting go of your quarterback 2 years ago? Isn't one of them. That's not a hard question. I don't even think that would be on the prep sheet. I think that's an easy question to answer, Nick.
So I totally understand what you and Greg are saying, Wilds. I think Brandon actually made maybe the best point, which is Doug Pederson stinks at this. There are certain things people just shouldn't do on camera. Y'all ever seen Drake play basketball? You don't want to. He shouldn't do it. We see he's like, hey, University of Kentucky, we're going to let Drake warm up. And he's airballing threes. He's dribbling the ball off his knee. Since then, has anyone seen Drake play basketball? Nope. Because people close to him was like, that's a bad look. Unfortunately for Doug Pederson, he has to do this almost every day, something he's terrible at. And so we're going to get a lot of these moments where Doug, whether he's a good, great, or bad football coach, he's not good at the press conference. So to me, I'd rather focus on the player we're discussing and not what Doug Pederson said, and more, should there be questions about Carson Wentz? And the answer to that question is hell yes. Wentz has been awful. You can make an argument he has been the single worst starting quarterback in the NFL this season. We can show you the numbers. He's got more picks than anybody. He's got another 4 or 5 fumbles, 6 fumbles to go along with it. His passer rating is 33rd. There's only 32 teams. His completion percentage is last. Like, he's been terrible. And I know there's mitigating circumstances, but mitigating circumstances don't turn a great quarterback into the worst quarterback in the NFL. So, Greg, what I want to ask you is, forget Nick Foles, because that ship has sailed and Foles stinks too. Should the Eagles be thinking about a different draft pick of theirs? Jalen Hurts. Because when we're saying he's our draft pick, you know who's also your draft pick? Jalen Hurts. Now, Carson Wentz has a boatload of dead money, and they've got no choice but to have him on the roster next season at a very minimum. But do you think in that organization they should be thinking about whether or not he actually is the guy?
Before I even answer that, I'm going to respond to Brandon and say I get it being Doug Pederson and him being a deer in headlights and him not being good at it. But you said something also in your response. We get prepped for almost every question. This literally was a home run, easy answer, just ignore it. And he didn't. Yep. He was in the most shallowest water possible, and he found his way in the ocean about to literally drowning. So this was completely on Doug Pederson, man. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to go that route. Now, Nick, to answer your question, I don't think so. I think the numbers, sometimes we can have selection bias, and I know his numbers are really bad when it comes to the interceptions, but he's also top 7, top 10, or somewhere around there in touchdowns thrown as well. And when we look at who he's throwing these passes to, like, let's be honest, he has to be better. He knows he has to be better, but they have to have some type of health circumstances that are.